So you have to realize you leave awake. Other people are experiencing you, and if you are just zipping through life and going fast and sharp corners and what have you, you may not know what your wake is causing around you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mary, certified relationship coach, Christian sex educator, empty nester, and happy jet skiing wife who believes God's design for sex in marriage is too good to stay quiet about.
And I'm Katieann, senior pastor, wife, mom to 4 kiddos, and I always love having some fun, even when we're diving into the deep and holy conversations about marriage and sex.
So, welcome to the Sexual Wholeness Revival podcast. I am so excited about our talk today, and I have to tell you, I'm going to do a little bit of a fangirl here, and this may be a bit of a surprise, but we are in our series of giving men some real encouragement and just speaking life over them and the role that God called them to. And one of the books that we are highlighting today, it is called The Way of the Dragon Slayer. This is by Danny Silk, and Danny's ministry has meant the world to me. And I know, Katieann, you have personally sat under his ministry, been a part of it, and helped, and just so many things. And an earlier book of Danny's called Keep Your Love On was foundational for my husband and I. We were dating when it came out, and our birthdays are back to back. And I'm like, I'm buying 2 copies of this book, and we're going to do it together. And we will either come out stronger
Uh,
as individuals or come out stronger as a couple. And I'm here to say it was the couple version. So his ministry has meant so much to me personally, and his teachings have been a foundation for what I do with helping other couples. So to be able to go through one of his books is just a real treat for me. Anything you want to throw in, Katieann, about your time with Danny's ministry?
yeah, if you haven't read his books or you've been on the fence as about his teachings in his books, I can tell you firsthand that the Silks are the real deal. They really do
Mm,
practice what they preach, and this isn't just some ethereal thought about relationship. This is something that they are consistently implementing in their own marriage and in their own
yeah.
family relationships. And that's why it impacted me so much as I, at a time in my life, had a front row seat to them walking
Mm.
it out. And so that made such a tremendous impact. And I'm just eternally grateful for the tools that we've learned through this, through Danny Silk.
Awesome, awesome. I knew that you would have just the right thing to say there. One of the things I want to start with is from the beginning of the book. I'm trying to put my paper down so I don't drop everything here. So, literally, I'm going to read just a couple of passages as we begin. This is on page 2, which is easy to find, and it's giving sort of the backstory. Hey, we helps so much when you know the why. But this is page 2, and it says, the men of the West today have fallen under an enchantment that has rendered them mentally and spiritually weakened and all but overthrown. They have allowed themselves to be lulled into captivity, to entertainment, pornography, and material comforts, while simultaneously being bullied and brainwashed into thinking that their masculine self are no longer needed or even toxic. And that is not the case. You see, while the 1960s brought about feminism and some of women being liberated, not all of those were true things that were happening, but for the men, there was a negative influence on the culture. And I say that because, guys, we're for you. I mean, culture just kind of happened. And if you happen to be born in those years, then some of these things had nothing to do with your choices. And it was just what was normal. But we want to unpack what God says, things that Danny has highlighted through his book, because I know that he has a timelessness to his plan, especially in how it shows up in sexual intimacy. So everything that you are as a man, as an individual, as a husband, impacts your wife and impacts your intimacy. And that is why we are diving into this. So my overarching question today is, how can we fully support men stepping into their role? And we want this to come across as you being a whole man and showing up with your whole life, and that totally partners with our Sexual Wholeness Revival.
Yeah, this is such an important topic. Such an important topic. And I'm so glad we're bringing some encouragement. I grew up with four brothers, the
Mm,
only girl out of five kids. And so I grew up a tomboy. I grew up shooting guns, riding horses, hunting, making, camping. And so
mm.
when I got married, I definitely was not a damsel in distress. I could change my own oil, I could change a tire on my car. I was not a damsel in distress. But when Josh came into my life, he protected and took care of me in a way that I
Mm.
had never had. And
Wow.
that difference was, it was challenging in a little bit different ways, because I was so used to being self-reliant
Yeah.
into my adult years. And so there is sometimes a conflict between the man's role to protect, to
Mm.
cultivate, and some of us women are over there going, I'm not a damsel in distress, I can do it myself. And so
Mm.
this book is just any place where men have felt shut down. This is such a great book to help articulate and call to action how God designed you. And so if a man's role is to own his inner world first, this is such a good question. If a man's role is to own his inner world first, what would that include, and how would it help his marriage?
I love starting here because God honors a man as an individual before he steps into the role of husband or
Yes.
father. And who he is as an individual, God believes in you. God believes in the gifts and callings on your life. God has said, "You are my son, and I am well pleased with you." There is this place of love in the relationship with Father God that is your identity. And being able to partner with God, to master yourself, and maybe that's the wrong word. Maybe we're talking about honoring yourself and who you are. We know culture has minimized men, and we want to say that's not what we're partnering with. We want to encourage men to really own their thoughts, their feelings,
Yes.
their words,
Yes.
their actions. And when he is able to do that, he shows up differently in the world, and people notice. There is a strength, there is a confidence, and it's magnetic. When a man is walking in his own, then people are attracted to that. And hey, there's even promotions that happen at work when a man has that assurity going on. But specifically, how it would help in marriage, I love that a woman doesn't have to worry about taking care of herself and taking care of her husband. Now, obviously, there's ways that we want to show care and affection and attention.
Right.
That's not what I'm addressing. I'm just saying we know that when each one of us as an individual stand before God and accept our role and accept our responsibilities, and we become powerful because of who God made us to be, then we are two whole people showing up in marriage, and it changes everything if that is your motivation.
Yeah, so good. And in the book, they use dragons as obstacles, as a way to describe obstacles for men. And so, if a dragon, one of the dragons a man might face in relationship with their wife is the fear of rejection, disconnection, and betrayal. What happens when it's not dealt with? What happens when he
Wow,
faces
a
his own
lot. And
fears?
it's one of those cycles where it can continue. If there's this sense of competition in marriage of, oh no, I've got to do what she says, what she wants, or else, then he is going to show up differently. He might be defensive and he might not put his wall down so that she feels she's got to bristle herself. And it's like, oh my goodness, if two people have walls up, then there's no way that they're going to have connection. And there can be a genuine fear. I mean, I'm not saying that fears are made up. A woman who enters marriage and I'm going to do it my way. I've been doing it my way. I'm just going to keep on doing it my way. You happen to be my husband, but I'm going to do it my way. Wow. Well, she might be something that they're legit. There would be a reason to fear. So we always call both spouses into that place of interdependence. But if he doesn't deal with those fears, it works against himself and his relationship and ultimately his children. Now, I don't want to just make this bigger than it is, but we know that things get passed down. And if you want your legacy to be strong and to be life changers for everyone around them, then it is a wonderful motivation to face some of these fears. Now, when he does realize, oh my goodness, I have been just living in fear of rejection or living disconnected by choice, or if I've been afraid she's going to leave me, I can't make changes because what she will do. If he's given away all that power, then she will never be able to really appreciate who he is as a man. But when he does face those fears, then it reduces the anxiety in the relationship. It creates an atmosphere where they can get closer, build that bridge, and find a way to talk through things that might be volatile because life changes are a given, but having the right atmosphere to be able to talk through things keeps connection as your goal, and it keeps
Yeah.
it as an attainable goal when you start putting these things in practice.
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand that there is just something so attractive to me when my husband confronts those places in his own heart and he is taking the initiative in the lead, and how that just reinforces trust. And so if you're someone who is shut off, I want to encourage you that even in your vulnerability through your process, it is meaningful to your wife. It is meaningful for her to see, hey, I recognize I have this dragon that needs to be slain in my life, and here's
Yes.
what I'm doing. And there is just something incredibly sexy about that I go, come on, get it. So, the encouragement here is that you addressing you has just such a profound impact, not just you, but on your spouse, on your kids, and eventually your children's children into the generation. So
Right.
I just love that, the pain might be for a moment, but if you can look into your future and decide, what kind of future do I want to have? What kind of future do I want my kids to have? And allow that to help motivate
Yes.
you to address the fear of rejection, disconnection, and betrayal. That will help give you some motivation to do it. And also, when my husband does address what's going on inside of himself, it also feels like protection for me. And so when a man acts as a protector for his wife, How does that open her vulnerability? How does that open her both physically and emotionally?
Yes, when she feels safe, when she sees that he is able to manage himself and do it well, then she knows she can enter that place and feel free to share more openly. And when I jump to this, Katieann, you were talking about the example of your husband and when he's facing his things. I have watched my husband show up even in a room of couples, I'll say, and the guys are attracted to his strength and his confidence, and they often turn to him, which I find very sexy, that he is a man of wisdom and he is a man who has tackled things in his life. And now he has some overflow to live in and to share with others. And I don't feel competition like they're going to get all of his time. Will they just stop calling him? It's not that, because I know he spent so many years looking inward and upward. God, what do you want to do in me? What needs to happen? When he has stepped into that place and now he is able to share it with others, that is amazing. And I admire it. So it stirs something up in me and makes me want to be more vulnerable with him.
One of the things that Danny talks about in his book is he tells the story of the sexy butler. Now, I've been with Danny for a lot of years, and I don't know if I've ever heard this, and I haven't read the book. My husband has it and has been reading it, and so I'm just waiting for him to finish it. So I have not heard the story of the sexy butler, but I'm really excited. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, and I've heard him describe it on some podcasts, but it's definitely mentioned here. And the setup is he's with a young couple. He's going to perform their wedding ceremony the next day. And this is Friday night, casual, sitting around by a campfire. And they were telling lots of stories. It's just the guys. And the groom to be is asking Danny, what advice would you give me on my new marriage? It's like, oh, that's a loaded question, especially when you have literally hours before the wedding is going to take place. But here is Danny's answer, and I'm going to read some of this. Make it your goal to be a sexy butler for the first 12 months. Everyone smiled. One of the guys joked that he liked the sexy part, but he wasn't quite sure about the butler part. Could you explain? He asked. Sure, I responded. If all goes well, you two are going to be like a couple of rabbits for a while. There won't be a room in the house where you haven't found your sexy. But the butler part is taking the role of a servant. And I think that's where most young men fail. We get tricked into believing that our identity is wrapped up in keeping the woman from controlling us. And we need her validation so much, but we're scared to be that vulnerable with her. So we just set out to conquer our woman's voice. We listen less to what she needs and more to what we need. Quickly, competition enters the relationship over whose needs are most important. Set your intention in the beginning of your marriage to conquer yourself and your selfish posturing. Make it your goal to remove the competition. All right, so several things here to bring up. The sexy in every room, we probably all understand, and that's a lot of fun to think about. Hey, could be the butler in every room, which is the servant's heart. But it's not just serving because, oh, she's got to have everything that she wants. No, it is setting the tone for no competition
Yeah.
in the marriage. And I think that part gets left out so much. And I love the idea of the first 12 months. I don't know how many men are able to do that, but the good news is you can start at any point to put her needs in a place that's out of competition. Now, as a relationship coach, I often have people sitting on my couch right here behind me that are like, yeah, we want her to have what she needs, but what about my needs? Why is it always about hers? And right then, with that thought, competition sets in, and there's no winning that.
Yeah, there
And
really isn't.
truly, if we go back to the instructions that Paul gave in regards to loving your wife, it's to love her like Jesus loved the church and gave himself for the church. So it is a tough order to follow, to be in that place of servant, but it changes everything because there will be no competition. And as soon as that is a pattern and your wife knows, I can breathe easy because he does value me and he will take care of me and he is honoring who I
Yeah.
am at my core. Once again, what this does is brings that place of protection, that place of vulnerability that opens connection. And anytime that is happening, sexual intimacy is right there and easy
Right.
to access because she feels so special and loved and safe.
Yeah. And the story, honestly, Mary, as you're talking, like I'm fighting back tears because
Mm,
I look at my marriage. We will be together almost 21 years. Our anniversary is in August, but it'll be 21 years this year. And I'm blown away because that is what my husband has modeled. Like he has done
wow.
that from the beginning. And I just go, "Oh, man, I need to pinch myself." I mean, our marriage isn't perfect, but he's done this so well. He has laid his life down. And just even hearing this, I just feel so full of gratitude right now. And I'm sorry, I'm a
Amen.
little weepy about it. And part of that too, though, is that he's also worked hard to understand me deeply, and he has really, really worked hard without arguing or disqualifying how I feel or saying, "But that's not the truth," right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, what happens? I know what has happened for me, but tell us a little bit more, will you, Mary, about what happens when he's willing to do the work to understand her deeply.
Number one, it heals any wounds that she has because she sees someone is willing to do extra, to go above and beyond for me. It's not the husband's responsibility to heal his wife's wounds, but when he does step into this role, then the healing can happen on layer and layer and brings restoration. And it's such a sweet spot when they are both at that place, when they are able to give to each other that way. So his willingness to do the work just magnifies any words of love that he said because he's taken action and she can see his action.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And and one thing that it tends to be a little challenging too is that somehow when I'm communicating, this is how I feel, it doesn't mean that it's a character assassination or that your heart is evil. And so that's sometimes very challenging in marriages to acknowledge how a wife feels like they are acknowledging or admitting to something bad. But understanding how someone else is experiencing you is crucial to growth and
Yes.
building trust and intimacy. So, how will wanting to understand how other people experience him help him in all of his relationship, not just
It's
his
so,
spouse?
yes, this is so powerful. And I live at the beach, so I do a lot of analogies to ocean, but I think about being on a boat and the wake that it causes. And
Mm.
we do a lot of jet skiing on the intercoastal, and if there's manatees there, then we have to greatly reduce our speed, and the water patrol will come and get you if you don't. So you have to realize you leave a wake. Other people are experiencing you, and if you are just zipping through life and going fast and sharp corners and what have you, you may not know what your wake is causing around you.
Yeah.
And when
So
you
good.
ask, how are you experiencing me? How are you perceiving my attentiveness or my care or my affection? Because what he might be doing, he thinks I'm showing affection, and she might perceive this as, oh, he's just doing this one thing because he wants sex. And maybe that was not his heart at all. So he has to ask. We both do. We have to ask, how are you experiencing me? But when a husband does that, because he is the leader of the home and he does set the tone for protection, when he does it, that's when everything starts to become realigned, and she realizes he cares enough about me to make adjustments. He values our connection so much that he's willing to change. When he can listen with a heart that is open, then certainly both spouses are just going to flourish from that place. And I know this might be really challenging. These might be some new tips and guidance that maybe you
Yeah.
haven't heard before. We want to do something a little different this time. We want to encourage you to take action. And what that's going to look like initially is to comment, to just comment on this podcast episode. Action. And we know that as a man, you have decided to do something different, to be more proactive, to reach out to God, even your community of men. But when you comment with the word action, we will respond to you with some personal encouragement right where you are. So I would invite you to do that. I also want to mention that in the show notes, I'm going to put the book, The Way of the Dragon Slayer by Danny Silk, and encourage you to check that out, because there are small groups that Danny's ministry also offers. So there could be a lot more opportunities for you than you haven't even experienced yet.
Yeah, so good. Get the book. Get the book. Watch the movie when it comes out. I don't know if they're making a movie. I'm kidding. But get the book. And really, our prayer and hope for you, wherever you are, if you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling a little lost directionally on what to do to help your marriage to strengthen that important relationship, this is a great first step. And we just really want to encourage you towards that. And until next time, let's bring back wholeness.